Welcome back to the Adam Schefter podcast as we get ready for week 4, and we are joined today by the host of the Pat McAfee Show, my friend, my colleague, Ty Schmit, for a Thursday edition of the Six Pack.
Thank you very much, Schefty. Here we go, Thursday again, another week starting. We got a pretty good slate this weekend, and we got a lot to talk about. So let's get right into it. Let's go to topic number 1. We talked about this on Tuesday, and then I want to say, a couple hours after the podcast got released, it became official. Jaxson Dart is officially making his first start for the New York Giants. What do you think about that whole situation, and what are you expecting to see on Sunday?
Well, it was inevitable. If we go back to draft night, Ty, when the New York Giants traded back into the first round to draft Jaxson Dart, and the Giants head coach Brian Daboll got on the phone with Jaxson Dart at that time, he told him, "You're where you're supposed to be. I'm banking on you." And Jaxson Dart responded, "Smart man." Now, we're going to find out here, starting Sunday against the Chargers and the rest of the season, to use Brian Daboll's phrase, about how smart this decision was. But after Sunday night, when the Giants fans were booing Russell Wilson and cheering Jaxson Dart, the energy in that building, where they'll be again on Sunday to play the Chargers, was such that it almost demanded the change. And everybody knew it was coming. And I think in a perfect world, the Giants would have liked to have been more patient and not rushed into this. And maybe they don't feel like they're rushing into this because there's never a great time to go with a rookie quarterback. But here we go, the start of a new era in Giants football, or a new era, depending on what happens here, right? It's going to be one or the other. And if Dart is the quarterback that they hope, think, and believe, then this team will be set up for a while because there is a lot of offensive talent. There's more talent on this team than I think people realize. Malik Neighbors is elite. Wan'Dale Robinson, Darius Slayton are good receivers. Cam Scatterbo, Tyron Tracy's out right now. Like, they have some talent. And if Jaxson Dart can unlock it, then great. But I will say this also. Jim Harbaugh has been poisonous against rookie quarterbacks. Poisonous. They don't beat him, generally speaking. I think he's had 12 games against them, 10-2, and he just had a great run against rookie quarterbacks. The defensive coordinator, Jesse Minter, those guys, they know what they're doing. So Jaxson Dart's going to have his hands full on Sunday, but we'll see how this plays out.
Yeah, I mean, like we mentioned, there really isn't a good time to do this. And you look at their schedule, they got a murderer's row coming up after they play the Saints next week, and then it doesn't get any easier. It's just tough team after tough team. But I think from the other side, you think of, you mentioned every time he comes on the field on Sunday night, the crowd goes crazy. He comes off the field, Russ comes back on, and everyone starts booing. From an ownership side, with everything that's going on there, like, listen, I know winning is the end-all, be-all, but you can't lose the fan base 3 games into the season. And, you run the risk of, if they go out and get killed by the Chargers on Sunday with Russell Wilson, you got a lot of disinterested fans who, maybe don't want to show up to the games on Sundays anymore, et cetera, et cetera. So is there ever a good time to make this move? No, but I don't think they had a choice. I think they had to.
And the other problem is the quarterback in your city right now, Daniel Jones. Less than a year ago, they released him. And right now, Daniel Jones is playing at an incredibly high level, as good as just about any quarterback in all football. Colts haven't lost a game. Daniel Jones is lighting it up. And the Giants released him less than a year ago. They need somebody to come in and play somewhere near the level that Daniel Jones is playing at in Indianapolis right now, right?
Yeah, without a doubt. And we'll see. I mean, everyone was you've said and we've heard time and time again about how people just gush about Jaxson Dart around the Giants building. And it was kind of just like, hey, we can't wait to see when this guy actually gets out there. I don't know if any of us thought it would be this early, but again, what do you have to lose other than maybe his confidence going against a very difficult Chargers defense on Sunday?
And the one thing I'll add that I heard over the week, somebody called me after the move was made and they said, Brian Daboll sitting at the poker table, he had one more chip left, and he's now put that chip on the table.
Yep, that makes complete sense because, you start thinking about your job and everything. If you lose and then you don't show any, optimism for the future, obviously you're probably not going to be around much longer. So we'll keep an eye on that game on Sunday. That should be exciting. Let's move on to topic number 2. The Jaxson Dart story is huge, obviously, but, we talked about this. You'd be hard-pressed to find a better story than Micah Parsons going back to Dallas, Packers-Cowboys Sunday night. As of right now, the Cowboys D is giving up 30.7 points per game without Parsons, and the Packers are 6-0 at Jerry World since it opened in 2009, excuse me. So they've had their way with the Cowboys in Dallas. What do you make of this whole situation, the narratives, and then the game itself?
Well, it's going to be something to have Micah back there. And I actually wondered if Jerry even looked at the schedule when he was making the trade to say, we've got the Packers in week 4, and this means Micah is going to be coming back into this building with a chance to embarrass us. And I'm just getting off Get Up right now. We just finished the show. And on the show, Dan Orlovsky said, and I'm stealing his word, his phrase, he said the Packers are going to boat race the Dallas Cowboys. He predicted that the Cowboys will be doing well to keep this game within 3 scores, basically guaranteed a Packers victory. And he might be right. Like, I'm not going to argue with that. But as I said to him, look, they put up the full screen. Taylor Lewan, Will Compton, Dan Orlovsky, Dominique Foxworth, to a man, everybody picked Green Bay. And the one thing that I've come to see and learn in the NFL is when everybody is expecting something, it doesn't always happen that way. And so that's the one thing that I'm just curious about. No, on paper, the Dallas Cowboys are not as good as the Green Bay Packers. No, they shouldn't be playing with them. Yes, the Packers should be boat racing them. And Micah should have 3-4 sacks in his return to Jerry World. All that should happen. And probably will. But there's something about why everybody tunes into these games the way they do. There's something about these games being unpredictable. And something tells me on Sunday night, after the Dallas Cowboys got embarrassed last week, I know they're going to be missing CeeDee Lamb. I know their first-round draft pick, Tyler Booker, isn't playing. I know none of it adds up or makes sense as to why the Dallas Cowboys should have any chance to be in the game on Sunday night. I'm going to say, maybe it's just professional pride that the Cowboys are going to play a better game than people are expecting. Do I think they'll beat the Packers? No, I don't. Nobody does. Very few people do. But I think they're going to play a good game on Sunday night. I think they'll keep it competitive. I think they'll have chances and opportunities. But the Packers are a good team, and they're coming off a loss against the Cleveland Browns, and they're going to come in angry and salty. And it has the ingredients of a really attractive, enticing matchup, regardless of Micah coming back to Jerry's World, which is going to be the big selling point of that game, understandably so.
Yeah, ordinarily, I would agree with you 1,000%. You look at this and everything that has been said about the Packers early on here, like you circle this week 4 game Sunday night and be like, it's a bit of a trap game. No one really respects Dallas as a contender. But like you said, the Packers got embarrassed last week as well, and what was arguably one of the worst losses in Matt LaFleur's tenure as head coach. So I think he's going to be on their ass all week. I think they're going to be very determined going in. And you look at what their secondary has been giving up to opposing quarterbacks. Jordan Love has been good early on here, but I really feel like this could be like a get-right game. If he has a massive game, puts up big numbers, that could really be like a nice little, okay, we got the bump in the road out of the way against Cleveland, and now let's really go. And then, like you said, the Micah stuff, I thought it was a little weird that people were trying to make a big deal about Jerry saying, hey, we're not going to honor him, with a video package before the game. Like, I don't know if that was to be expected, but again, it's just it's another little jab, another little, little bit of shade thrown at Micah. So not that he wasn't going to be motivated to have a monster game as is. I think he's going to be ready to have maybe arguably the game of his career on Sunday.
By the way, that video package, that's a reporter's question. That's a ridiculous idea.
Yeah.
Like, what? With all due respect, Micah's been a great player. He got his tribute. It's $47 million a year. That's his tribute, okay? He doesn't need a video package in AT&T Stadium to salute him before. How many years he play there? 4?
Yeah.
4 years? Like what are we, a tribute? Like, where does that come from? Like, a tribute's when you have extended service, a long celebrated career. Like, he had 4 great years there. Why are they giving him they're not. nor should they.
No.
Nor should they.
And then trying to compare it to Emmitt Smith. It's like, that was the other thing. That was what I said yesterday. I was like,
but that's a question, right? That's not somebody that made the statement. That's a reporter. I got it. They're looking to write something. They're looking for a story. And yes, that's a story. They're not celebrating. But the idea of it is absurd.
Yeah, and I guess maybe the idea there is, hey, maybe we can get a quote here that like Jerry scoffs at this, and then we can kind of really build up that feud and that drama furthermore. Because you're right. I mean, in no world did I expect there to be a video package for him coming back. He never won anything there. You know, what did they win? One playoff game while he was there? And yeah, he's a great player, but I mean, we're not doing this for everyone. You know,
Dominique Foxworth said they should play some of his best podcast moments.
There you go. See, that'd be a good troll.
Podcast clips.
Yeah, that'd be a great troll. But nonetheless, I hope this is a good game because you get that Sunday night spotlight. Especially as a Packers fan, I'd love to be able to have something to watch all of Sunday night and not have this thing be, you know, dead and gone by halftime. But we'll see. It's the NFL. We say it. It's a week-to-week league, and anything can happen. Let's move on to topic number 3, Schefty, and let's go to the other, you know, top-tier pass rusher in the league, Myles Garrett. This guy is incredible. Obviously, the Browns' defense is incredible, but he is unbelievable. He only needs 2 more sacks to pass Reggie White for the most sacks for a player under 30. Reggie White currently sitting at 108 and Myles Garrett at 106.5. We've said all the superlatives you can say about this guy, but how phenomenal is Myles Garrett?
Isn't that incredible? Like, we're talking about Micah Parsons, and Myles Garrett has a chance to make history on Sunday if he can get 2 sacks for the Cleveland Browns against the Detroit Lions. Now, I don't know that he's going to get 2 on Sunday against a team that's so smart and disciplined and tough up front, but Myles Garrett is a monster, and the Cleveland Browns defense is really good. People don't realize it because they're struggling so much on offense, but they went out and added some real talent there in the offseason. Myles Garrett, of course, is the centerpiece of it. And I just hope that they can get better play on offense, run the ball better, throw the ball better, score more touchdowns. I think they've scored 4 touchdowns in 3 games, which puts the pressure on the defense. But you can't argue the greatness of this Browns defense. And hopefully the offense rises up and competes at a level that at least gives the defense a chance to enjoy some of the work that it's putting in on Sunday. Well, that's going to be an interesting game on Sunday against the Lions. Now, the Lions have one less day. We'll get to the Lions later, but the Cleveland Browns defense deserves some props, and Myles Garrett has a chance to make some history here. Let's see if he can get that done on Sunday.
Yeah, and I mean, this kind of lends credence to all the stuff he was saying about, you know, he's going to be a Hall of Famer. You know, it's like, hey, I don't really care about my Hall of Fame bust right now. I want to win. And after watching that game on Sunday as a Packers fan, I mean, if their offense was below average or average, this would be a team that could maybe go win a Super Bowl, but their offense is abysmal. And it's like, you're right.
But Todd, what was the takeaway of the Browns defense as you watched them on Sunday as a Packers fan?
Just, they're relentless. It does. I mean, Jordan and the Packers offensive line had looked great up to that point. Granted, they had a couple injuries, but in the backfield all day, you can't run on them. You cannot establish the run at all. And then if you can't establish the run, the Packers couldn't hold up in pass protection either. So it really was, you know, you're praying for field goals, but that's also been the other thing is their offense has been turning the ball over and special teams, you know, block punts, that kind of stuff that puts their defense in a bad position. And that's where we see some of the blowouts like Baltimore. But if you give them a full field to defend, I don't care how good the offense is. That's just not a team you're scoring 35 points against.
No, they're not good. The Cleveland Browns, mark my words, the Cleveland Browns are not going to be involved in many shootouts this year.
Correct. But I mean, if they get a decent effort from the offense, they will be in every game. I really do believe that after watching on Sunday. Obviously, the Lions on Sunday will be a massive test. Let's move on to topic number 4, Schefty. The Eagles really have kind of had their way with every team in the NFL over the last year and a half, 2 years. But there has been one team, you know, really since they kind of had this come up that has given them fits, and that's the Tampa Bay Bucks. And Tampa has kind of been a house of horrors for them. What do you see in that game on Sunday?
You know, the Eagles have won 19 of 20 games. And we didn't get into the podcast on Tuesday, but the Eagles, as I've said, have become inevitable. They've become like the Patriots were, like the Chiefs recently were, where no matter how much they're down, no matter how much they're counted out, no matter how much it looks like it might not be their day, they find a way to win the game. That's how you win 19 of your last 20 games. That's how you win the Super Bowl last season. That's how Jalen Hurts is 17-0 in his last 17 starts. I mean, think about that. This is a team that just doesn't lose, and they find a way. But the one place that Jalen Hurts and the Eagles have struggled is Tampa. Jalen Hurts is 1-4 against the Buccaneers. The Buccaneers have won 6 of their last 7 games against the Eagles. For whatever reason, the Eagles have not played well in Tampa. They have not played well against the Buccaneers. The Buccaneers right now have some significant injuries. Mike Evans won't play on Sunday, but I think Chris Godwin will be back. And I think Tristan Wirfs at left tackle will be back. Huge. But the Buccaneers lost some other offensive linemen. Like, they've really had to fight through it. But they've won all their games in the final moments. And I think people don't talk enough about how good Tampa's been in recent years. I think they've won 4 straight NFC South titles. And the NFC is loaded this year, but Tampa's right there. Tampa's going to have a chance. And wouldn't it be something if this game on Sunday had some sort of meaning for a home playoff game later in the season? That could be.
Yeah.
That could be. If Philadelphia can't take care of business, particularly with the Eagles' schedule, it's possible the Eagles could be going back to Tampa in January, later on. So there's a lot at stake, and the Eagles have to go exercise some demons that they have had in Tampa. We'll see if they can get it done. But this is a team that's just matched up well. I don't know whether it's Todd Bowles' Temple background, playing, coaching there, and understanding the Philadelphia mentality. He knows that city well, but they have really done a great job of taking care of the Eagles, which nobody else has done in recent years.
Yeah, and with this one specifically this year, it kind of has that unstoppable force meets an immovable object type deal, because you mentioned it. The Bucks, they get the ball in that last possession, no matter how little time is left. It almost feels like a certainty that they're just going to march down the field and score. They just know how to win, and they've been doing it with a patchwork offensive line. I mean, practice squad guys up there, guys playing out of position. It's been really remarkable getting Tristan Wirfs and Godwin back. And, Mike Evans, in years past, it's kind of been like, hey, we got to figure out what we're going to do now that Mike Evans is, going to miss 3 to 4 weeks. Micah Parsons is unbelievable. He's unbelievable. So things seem to be rolling right now down there in Philly too. So I'm very, very excited for this game on Sunday.
By the way, Micah Parsons, can we think of anybody else right now through 3 games, whatever that's worth, going to the quarterly mark of the season that's a more deserving offensive rookie of the year candidate?
No, not off the top of my head.
Yeah, we'll see. A lot of time left, a lot of football left, and I'm sure we're going to hear from Travion Henderson and Amarian Hampton and Ashton Genty, but right now Micah Parsons has really shined.
Yeah, without a doubt. Hampton especially, with him looking like he's going to be the lead back for the rest of the year.
The bell cow.
Yeah, exactly. Let's move on to topic number 5, Schefty. Let's go to the AFC East.
Yeah.
Weird. The Dolphins and the Bills are almost kind of the inverse of each other. The Bills have gone 8 straight games without turning the ball over, and the Dolphins haven't forced a turnover. I don't know if we learned much more about the Dolphins last Thursday against the Bills, other than I think a lot of people thought they were going to get embarrassed, and that was kind of going to be the stick of fork in them. They're done for the rest of the season. They certainly showed fight, but just kind of a wild stat there, and a good picture as to what's going on in the AFC East right now.
Well, you mentioned it there. We were texting about this, but I just think that that's unbelievable. The Bills haven't turned over the football in 8 straight games. I want people to think about that, process it, and digest it. No turnovers in 8 straight games. Now they play the New Orleans Saints on Sunday. And you know how on the bottom line on ESPN, they have that scroll where they put the point spread and the chances of a team winning?
Yep.
I don't know that I've ever seen a team given an 80% chance to win as the Buffalo Bills are given on Sunday against the New Orleans Saints. And I can tell you this, that if the Bills have their 9th straight game without a turnover, there's 100% chance that they'll win. 100%. Because that's the only way the Saints are going to win that game is if they could get Buffalo to turn over the football in Buffalo. Difficult, tall order. And on the flip side of that, like we talked about, the Dolphins haven't forced a turnover in 3 games this season. 3 games, no turnovers. When you don't get turnovers, you don't win. That's what's going to happen. The Dolphins play the Jets on Monday Night Football. We have another doubleheader on Monday night. We've got the Dolphins and the Jets. We've got the Bengals at the Broncos. 2 interesting matchups, different than people would have thought they would have been at the beginning of the year. But what hasn't changed is that Miami's defense is under pressure. They went out. They should have some great pass rushers here. Jalen Phillips, Bradley Chubb. These guys should be getting it done and forcing turnovers. They went out and got Micah Fitzpatrick for Jalen Ramsey. No turnovers in 3 games. None. You're not going to win. You're 0-3. Again, direct correlation between turnovers and wins. 0 turnovers, 0 wins. Bills, 0 turnovers on offense, unbeaten. There's your recipe. It's not hard to figure, Ty, and it's going to continue in Buffalo, Miami if those trends also continue.
And a team like Miami, that puts so much pressure on your defense, on your offense. You know, if you're not forcing any turnovers, and we've seen how slow that they've started, when you're in a position like that, you almost got to get points every possession, because when you're in a division with a team like the Bills, they're not turning it over. And guess what? More often than not, they are going down and putting points on the board. So that'll be an interesting thing to watch as we move on here. And I think you're right in terms of Sunday with the Bills at home against the Saints. The Bills might have to turn that over 9 times, and I still think they would maybe have an opportunity to win that game. We'll see. That's by far the biggest spread of the season thus far, so that'll be an interesting game. All right, Schefter, let's move to the 6th and final topic of the 6-pack. You mentioned it a little bit earlier. Man, everything people were saying about the Lions early on, you can go ahead and throw that in the trash. It certainly appears that the roar has been restored. What a phenomenal performance on Monday night from them. And now we see, the following day, the odds for them to win the NFC, they're right back where they were at the start of the season. What's your take on this Lions team as of right now?
Well, first of all, they went into Baltimore and did to the Ravens what the Ravens usually do to every other team that comes into Baltimore. I thought it was the most impressive performance of the weekend. A team that was physical, fast, decisive, made all the plays. They're back. Now, there are a few things that stood out about it that were just so incredible. Aiden Hutchinson with an incredible play on Derrick Henry to force out that fumble. Jared Goff with the 4th down throw to Amon-Ra St. Brown. There's a running game. With one performance, they, to me, announced that they are right back where they were last year, despite the departure of the coordinators, despite the loss of Frank Ragnow. Look, there were people like myself that wondered after week 1, what's it going to be like without Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn? And they have adjusted, figured it out, and made the necessary changes. I also want to point out, in the pregame show, I noticed the first couple of weeks, and somebody had mentioned to me that the Lions had raised the issue with the NFL that there have been some teams like the Packers in week 1, the Bears in week 2 that have been going low at Aiden Hutchinson. We had some video that I think supported that, but after I said it on ESPN, I heard from the Lions, and they wanted it to be known that, no, we have not said anything to the league about raising that question. That's not who we are. In fact, we depend on those types of plays to help us with our run game. No, we haven't raised that issue. Now, if I were the Lions, I would have raised the issue because he's a great player and you want to protect him. But for the record, they said they haven't raised the issue, even though I'd been told that they did raise the issue. So I wanted to clarify that as well, Ty, and point out that, hey, for everybody else, the Detroit Lions are back. They're for real. And the NFC's loaded this year. There are any number of really good football teams. Could you not see Philadelphia emerging from that conference? Could you not see Detroit or Green Bay? Could you not see Tampa? Could you not see the Rams? Yeah. Those are 5 teams. We didn't even mention Washington, San Francisco, Seattle, Arizona, Minnesota, Chicago. 7 playoff teams, 5 really good teams, a lot of other good teams. But the Detroit Lions, if they play like that on Monday night, with all due respect to your Packers, Ty, I don't think anybody's going to beat the Lions if they're going to play at that level.
Yeah, I mean, certainly. And, luckily the Packers already have one in hand on them, which certainly doesn't hurt. But I think, it's the overreaction cycle we live in, which you kind of have to do when you cover the game on a week-to-week, day-to-day basis like we all do. But their offensive line looked so bad week one against the Packers, and that was kind of like hey, this is, this is what they did. This is how they made their money and how they made their hay. So if they can't block up front, it just ruins everything. They can't run. They can't do play action off the run. And we've seen in the 2 weeks since then, their line has just been mauling people, rushing for 300 yards against Baltimore, which nobody does that. Like you said, just what a statement win. And I think it's a good thing too, because over the last couple years, the NFL is just, it's nice when the Lions are good or when they're competitive like this, because they play a fun brand of football, but they're still tough and physical. It kind of marries the old school nature of the game with kind of some of the more new school concepts. So the Lions look great.
Yeah, they did look great. And by the way, the NFC, like we said, is loaded. It's got a bunch of powerhouse teams. In the AFC, Baltimore right now struggling, Kansas City struggling. The one AFC team that doesn't appear to be struggling right now, the Buffalo Bills, the Chargers are playing well. That would be interesting. But can you imagine a Bills-Lions Super Bowl, a Bills-Packers, a Bills anybody, but against one of those teams? I mean, there are some interesting possibilities here that are percolating early in the season. And, that's the beauty of this. We're only going into the quarter pole of the season, week 4. But as I said to Greeny on Get Up in one segment there, it's amazing how when we start the year, at the beginning of the year, everybody thinks that they have fixed their problems. Everybody thinks they've hit on a draft pick. Everybody thinks their free agent signing is going to make a difference. Everybody thinks the season's going to go well. And then all of a sudden the season starts, and there are some injuries and some losses mount, and some players don't come through, and there are some questions and criticisms. And all of a sudden, that clean blank slate that you felt in week 1, those slates are not clean and blank anymore. We're going into week 4. The questions are being asked. The pressure is rising. And that is the nature of where we are at going into week 4, when we'll get more questions answered. All right, Ty, remember to please rate, review, and subscribe. Or subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. Whatever it is. Appreciate your time today, Ty. Thank you to you. Thank you to our great producer, Dan Stanzik. Thank you to all the listeners who tune in to another Adam Schefter podcast. We'll be back in this spot Tuesday to look back at a telling week 4 and begin to look ahead to week 5. Until then, enjoy the games